What's up guys, this is part 2 of Bleacher Report's awful 2015 superstar predictions. Click here to watch part 1, but this is, according to Bleacher Report, the top 10 players of 2020. Number 10 is James Harden, another player that Bleacher Report got correct. By the time this article had come out, Harden had already established himself as a star with 3 seasons scoring more than 26 points per game. Of course, he reached the pinnacle of basketball, winning the 2017 MVP and then scoring 36 points per game in 2018. While Harden may have slowed down a bit from that time, he is still a top 10 player in today's league, and for all things considered, 10 is a pretty accurate spot for him. Number 9 is Paul George. During a scrimmage Team USA practice, Paul George suffered a horrific leg injury that would cause him to miss the majority of the 2014 NBA season. Even prior to this injury, George was beginning to put his name on the map. Just 2 years ago, the Pacers, led by Paul George and Roy Hibbert, took the superstar Heatles to 7 games, and then the year after that in 6 games. While that team did not work out, Paul George got better as he would go on to average 23, 7, and 4 for the next few seasons. Paul George was then traded to the Thunder, where he would put up his career best year, averaging 28 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, receiving multiple MVP votes. But after Damian Lillard ended his time on the Thunder, he headed over to the Clippers, where there's been plenty of expectations but no results yet. Today, George is not a top 10 player, but many people still call him a top 20 player in today's league. While he may never be able to escape the pandemic P, after all this time, George still ranks as one of the best players who could fit on any team in this league. Number 8 sits Steph Curry. Surprisingly, Bleacher Report was a little more hesitant on Curry, fearing that his history of ankle injuries may prevent him from being able to handle a full season at a high level. But between the time that this article came out and now, Steph Curry has gone above and beyond and to prove them wrong. 2 MVPs, 2-time scoring champ, 3 NBA championships, and a slew of all-star selections and all-NBA teams. Steph Curry makes a strong case, not only for a top 10 player, but a top 5 or even the best player in today's game. In this article, Bleacher Report predicted that if he could stay healthy that season, there's a chance he could win the MVP and lead the Warriors to a championship. And we all know what Steph Curry did that season. At number 7 sits Blake Griffin. You know we had to have a bad pick in here, right? At number 7, it's Blake. Before this article came out, Griffin was coming off of what was at the time the best year of his career, averaging 24 and 10. Of course, he, DeAndre Jordan, and Chris Paul were causing highlights every single night in the Lob City era of the Los Angeles Clippers. But outside of his scoring and highlights, Griffin still lacked a full game, namely not being able to score from outside and his weak defensive game. Shortly after his best season, Griffin succumbed to more injuries, eventually ending his time as a Clipper. For a brief moment, Griffin revitalized his career in Detroit, where he averaged a very quiet 24 points per game, making 2 3-pointers per game. But now Griffin just finds himself as a very good role player on the Nets. And while he does have a big contribution to them, he is far from a top 10 player. Number 6 sits Blake Griffin, current teammate Kyrie Irving. Even predicting Steph Curry to win the MVP did not make him the best point guard in the league, as Bleacher Report calls him the 6th best player in the NBA. The former number 1 pick was predicted to be a top player in the league because of his efficient scoring all over the floor and his flashy handles. 1 championship and 2 teams later, Kyrie sits as the 3rd member of the Nets' Big 3. But to his credit, Kyrie's also coming off of a very underrated 27.6 assist season last year. But the actual best point guard in the league, according to this, is going to Russell Westbrook, Mr. Triple-Double himself. At the time, there was an argument of Steph Curry versus Westbrook. Looking back, we see how Curry changed the game, and of course Curry being the better player. But Westbrook is the better defender, athletic, a better finisher, and arguably even a better playmaker than Curry at the time. This argument got even stronger when Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double for an entire season, winning the 2016-17 MVP. During his peak, Russell Westbrook was a top 10, maybe even top 5 player, but he never was better than Stephen Curry. And while he isn't in the top 5 or even the top 10 today, he's definitely cemented his legacy as one of the best guards of all time. Number 4 sits Westbrook's partner in crime, or should I say former partner in crime, Kevin Durant. Durant, being seen as someone who had the height of a center, the ability to dribble like a guard, and can score from any level of the court. Not to mention, Durant had already had a finals appearance and an MVP by the time this article had come out. Afterwards, Durant's skill has not dropped at all. but his public image seems to have taken a hit from him moving to the Warriors and then to the Nets. But even to this day, even after suffering an Achilles tear, Durant sits amongst the top players in the NBA, with many people even trying to make the case that he is still the best player in the NBA. I would like everyone to bow down their heads in a moment of silence for a number 3 player on the list, and that is DeMarcus Cousins. Scoring 24 points per game in 2014, Cousins would go on to have back-to-back 27 point per game seasons. Cousins also expanded his game, adding a 3-point ball, and his best season in Sacramento where he averaged 5 assists per game. During his peak of 2017, Cousins was the best center in the NBA, often being seen trapped in Sacramento. That season, the Kings traded him to the Pelicans to combine him with Anthony Davis. This essentially put the 2 most dominant big men in the league on the same team, and that worked out for about half a season until DeMarcus Cousins tore his Achilles, ultimately ending the projected Hall of Fame career he once had. Now Cousins sits as a much reduced version of his former self, having small stints for the Clippers and Rockets last season. It is just really sad to see how much he has fallen off from just a few years ago. Number 2 on our list is one of the most hyped prospects ever, and that is Andrew Wiggins. While calling Wiggins a top 3 player today seems laughable, it's important to look at what he was once doing. Wiggins won a unanimous Rookie of the Year, averaging 17 points, 5 rebounds, and after only 2 years later, Wiggins was averaging 24 points per game, appearing to be a true superstar in the making. But Wiggins' development halted as the flaws in his game became more prevalent. That being his inefficient ability from mid-range, him not being able to shoot the 3 ball, him not being as efficient as a down low by the rim scorer, not being as physical as he once was, especially in his high school days, and not living up to some of the defensive expectations that scouts had once thought he had. After being given a massive contract by the Timberwolves, he became too much and was traded to Golden State. While today he may not be the most relevant player, he sits as a solid 2 guard who had a pretty good defensive season last year and his best season ever from shooting the 3 ball. While he isn't a top 3 player, he has made a bit of a turnaround on the trajectory of his career. And according to this, the best player in the NBA would be Anthony Davis. Davis being an athletic freak of nature guard turned big man, with the ability to defend anyone, score from the post, and make plays like a guard. In only his second season, Davis was already averaging 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks. He continued to get even better where he peaked in 2018, averaging 28 and 12. But after forcing himself out of New Orleans, he was traded to the Lakers, where he teamed up with LeBron and won the finals in his first season. Being only 28 next season, Davis is primed to take over the Lakers as an aging LeBron is ready to take a step back. But a history of injuries and a rough time last year may make it difficult to see if that will actually become a reality. Those are the top 10 players of 2020. If you enjoyed this video, like and comment down below and stay subscribed to keep up to date with future videos. That's it for this one, I'll catch you guys later.